Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast powered by Carolina Electrical Services. For all your electrical needs, call 704-320-7357 and my dad, Jacob Marlowe, will take care of those for you guys right away. Josh and Anthony here with you as always, and today we are previewing the Sweet 16 matchup with Auburn. That game will tip off Friday night, roughly 7:29 on TBS. And Anthony, when we did our bracket breakdown way back, I guess 2 weeks ago, we mentioned Auburn as a team that could maybe get into the Sweet 16, but of course with the hurdle of Kansas, didn't expect to see the Tigers, but that's our opponent. That's the hand we're dealt, and it's going to be a pretty tough game for Carolina on Friday night.
Yeah, so much for thinking that Kansas might get everything back in the right direction. Auburn dominated every single facet of that game, proving that Kansas team was not good with all of the guys that they lost. Auburn continues to play very efficient basketball on the offensive side. Also been a very good defensive team, turn teams over rather often. They thrive getting out in open space and running, which, we'll see how that's going to look against Carolina. Bruce Pearl says he thinks that it shouldn't be much of a problem. I don't think Bruce Pearl really knows a whole lot about the rule that you never want to run against Carolina. And this year, more than any, I think it's definitely true. So, I thought we were going to see the Jayhawks. Either way, I think this was going to be a tough matchup because now you got an Auburn team that's on fire after winning the SEC tournament title and shooting lights out from three, or you would have had a Kansas team that may not have been playing fantastic, but would have been playing pretty much a home game in Kansas City. So either way, you were faced with a tough matchup. I think we kind of knew that, and it'll be interesting to see what these guys' mindset is coming into this game against a team in Auburn that, early in the year, remember, they were relatively highly ranked. I don't think this is a team that is completely unknown nationally, but it's still a little bit of a team that people are trying to figure out whether or not they'll be able to make a deep run.
Yeah, from this point on, Carolina's going to face legit teams when you get to this part of the tournament, and that's exactly what Auburn is. Like you said, this was a preseason top 10 team, and I think they competed in the Maui Invitational, lost a couple games there. But really the thing is with Auburn is their style of play. When it works, like it's working now with 10 straight wins, they're really tough to beat. But when they're not forcing turnovers and they're not hitting threes, then they lose the games they lost to in the SEC play that everyone scratching their head. They lost to NC State, but that was a game where they turned it over. I think it was 24 times or something like that. So as much as they like turning the opponent over, they have their own problems turning the ball over, and that's something we'll need to keep an eye on Friday night. So I want to touch on the Bruce Pearl thing, wanting to run. I'm with you. If this was Carolina teams when Marcus Page or even Joel Berry running the offense, you might want to run with Carolina because we didn't play fast. But now we're back to running, and I mean we're running faster than we have been in a decade.
Ever. I think ever under Roy. I think it's faster than the 09 team, if we're being honest. So.
And I was looking at daggone box scores to put some clips up when Bruce Pearl was at Tennessee and played the 08 Carolina team and the NIT tip-off, and I was just watching Ty Lawson blow past that Tennessee team, which was really, really good, and they couldn't stop him. And I just wonder if Auburn's going to try to do that with Kobe White. Can they stop Kobe White? Like, if I'm him, I'm listening to those comments, and I'm taking the onus. I want you to try to run with me because ain't no one in the country can keep up with me from sideline to side or inline. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun game, fast-paced game, but there's going to be some things Carolina's going to have to do well, which is mainly defend the three and really get to Auburn on the glass because this is not a very good rebounding team.
Yeah, no, you mentioned that. That's the third straight team that we've met that's not a good rebounding team. This team, I think, is going to have a similar game plan to what we saw from Iona in the fact that they're going to try to turn Carolina over. They're going to take their opportunities when they can get out in the fast break, but mostly they're going to try to beat Carolina from deep. Because here's the other thing about trying to run with Carolina. People say, well, really the reason you don't want to run with Carolina is because when you start getting up and down, their offense is going to start to score points. I think our transition defense has become a lot better from early in the season, and I think they've had those moments where they've been they take away some of those opportunities after turning the basketball over. Just great hustle plays from guys like Kenny Williams all season. Now we're seeing Nazir Little start to get in on it, and he's also getting in on the offensive end. So, I think I don't know how much you can really compare that Auburn team to that Tennessee team from 2008. I don't know if Tennessee was that good of a three-point shooting team that year. These teams are, of course, totally different. It's 11 years later. Bruce Pearl's a different coach. Roy Williams is even a little bit of a different coach. But when I look at this game from the perspective of how does Carolina avoid giving Auburn the opportunities they've got, we want to go fast. We understand that. But you got to do it under control, because we've even seen at times in the tournament, even against Washington, that's kind of what kept them in it for a little while, was when Kobe White tries to split double teams, he coughs the ball up. We've got to be really careful with those types of turnovers, because a team like Auburn, they can hurt you with that. And, I know another thing in transition that the guys have to keep an eye on is the trailer. That really hasn't been much of a problem. I don't think it really was the focus coming into the game against Iona, but maybe that was able to help the Tar Heels just a little bit, because Auburn, they're a weird type of transition offense. They don't look to finish inside. They're looking to drive, get inside, and kick it out for a three. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm a guy that's not really that concerned with the three-point defense that we saw against Iona. There were some people that were very concerned with what we saw. I really just thought Iona was hitting shots from deep. So I think, this matchup lends well to Carolina, but they've got to make sure that they don't turn the ball over, because you're going to dominate the glass. This team, they're going to have a really good night shooting with the efficiency that we've seen from the Heels offensively. It's just, can you prevent those turnovers from allowing Auburn to get out and do what they do best?
Yeah, you mentioned it. The 10 first-half turnovers against Washington really kept the Huskies in the ballgame. Mm-hmm. If Carolina maybe cuts those in half, that game might have been effectively even more so over at halftime than it was. But then only 2 turnovers in the second half. So they've shown the ability to learn from their mistakes, but they're going to need that kind of ball security for 40 minutes. And look, they're going to turn the ball over.
Of course.
It's just, and we've said it, and I've said it all year long with a freshman point guard, it's not the number of turnovers, it's the type. If they're dead ball turnovers, I'm not going to give a crap. But if they're live ball turnovers, like you said, where Kobe's trying to get fancy with the handle, or we get, Luke gets dizzy with the pass or something like that, then they're running out. And like you said, they don't want twos, they want threes in transition. Mm-hmm. That's modern basketball now, and they thrive on as much as anybody in college basketball. That can make for a long night. I saw a stat today where 61% of the opponent's shots in the first weekend were threes. That could be the same number this game, because Auburn took 50% of Auburn's shots, and their first stands were from three-point land. So they have no problem chucking it up. So that means we got to be aware. We got to close out strong on threes. Be really good in ball screens, because if you sink into the ball screen, you're going to allow Harper or Brown, both guys who shoot 38% or better from behind the three-point line, to get clean looks at threes. And that's one of the matchups I think is going to be fun to watch, is how does Kenny Williams do defensively against whoever he gets, whether it's Brown or Harper, and he could be on both throughout the game, but he's going to have one of his better defensive efforts against these two guys.
Yeah, no, I actually think that Kobe White's going to be the guy I'm going to be watching more, because I really do feel like Kenny's a guy that will handle his own there, but once you have to go to Kobe and see what he can do in it, I don't know. I think it's more of how much energy is he putting in on the offensive end, and will he be able to still be able to put in as much energy as he's going to have to on the defensive end, because frankly in the first 2 games, the best player for both sides has been, or both opponents, I should say, has been at the shooting guard position. Now, that might be true once again here, but I think that, you can make the case that Jared Harper is better than Bryce Brown, or vice versa. I think it's actually pretty close. But, one of the interesting match, I want to see how Luke May, who is the guy that I think is going to end up actually probably playing most against Chuma Okeke, because Okeke's a guy that, while he is an inside presence, leads the team in rebounding and is actually listed as their 5. He's a guy that can step away and hit the three-point shot. He shot 132 of them, or 137 of them this year, and hit 52 of them. So he shoots 38% from three for a big man and a stretch 4 /5. I mean, they go pretty small. So it's going to be interesting to see how Carolina is able to match up with guys that not only can stretch the floor, but do a sensational job of stretching the floor. I think it's, like you said, this matchup is going to be one of the best, I think, of the weekend because of the pace and because of the fact that both teams really are 2 of the hotter teams in the entire country. For Carolina, I think one of the big things now is that depth that we had early in the year is back, because Leaky Black has played not significant minutes, but he's played enough here to start the tournament. He's seen action in both games, as has Sterling Manley. So you can see it's very, very weird, but Roy Williams' bench is actually expanding as he's gotten into the postseason. And I think in a game like this that's going to be so up and down, and you're going to have guys that are going to be expanding a lot of energy, having those type of guys back in the lineup really, really helps.
Yeah, for Auburn, Okeke is their X factor. He's kind of like the P.J. Washington factor for Kentucky. When he plays well, they're a different team. And I think if Carolina can limit what he does, which is damage control and all, because he's their offensive rebounder if they have one.
Right.
They don't really have one, but he's their guy. If they can keep him off the glass and keep him from hitting threes, Harper and Brown are going to get theirs. It's just, kind of like how Kobe White's going to get his or Cam Johnson's going to get his. It's the other guys that take away from Carolina. For Auburn, it's taking away Okeke, and that's really going to be the determining factor in this ballgame, I believe. And I have a really good faith that if it's Luke on him or maybe Cam or whoever, we're going to do okay keeping him limited and find a way to get it done. I'm with you. This matchup, I think we want Carolina and Kansas for all the reasons. You got 2 blue bloods. You want to finally get the win over Kansas and all that. But this matchup was not talked about when you got the bracket. But like you said, it's kind of turned into maybe the best matchup, maybe the whole Sweet 16 round, just because of, like you said, the way the 2 teams want to play with the pace. It should be a fun basketball game, and that's what it's all about. It's having fun, and then, of course, winning the game. And the depth is something you got to keep an eye out, because as much as like you said, they're going to be expanding energy. The coaches got to kind of look at Sunday as a possibility to not wear their guys out, and not be got tongue tied there. Have nothing left to play on Sunday, and that could work in Carolina's favor because they are the deeper team with Leaky and Sterling back, and with Nazir giving you the production he's giving you, really adds another element to this team. So we'll go ahead and get to the pick. I'll go first. I like Carolina just because I think this team's on a mission. They've seemed refocused. Kenny Williams said it yesterday. What they did last weekend means nothing. They got to rebuild that momentum. I think you'll see a focused team from the tip and win a very fun game. I think it's going to be in the 80s, and I think Carolina just outscores Auburn.
Well, I mean, you call it fun. I call it gut-wrenching. But I think we are going to find a way to win this game. I think Carolina prevails, probably in the 5 to 7 point range, somewhere in there. Really, I think arguably the best game of the tournament, probably outside of Central Florida and Duke. That's what's probably going to take place because of how good these teams are offensively. I think the guy that you're going to have to keep an eye on in this game, I think, is, you talk so much about, Luke May and Nazir Little, how talented they are and how they've played extremely well so far in this tournament. I think Garrison Brooks could be a guy that could have a big game in this one just because the size really isn't there for Auburn. They have guys that really just don't feel like they're that comfortable playing down low. I think Garrison Brooks will have a good game. Carolina's got to put the basketball inside because Auburn's not the best team down low. I don't think they have the bodies to compete. That's where I think the difference is for Carolina. And, I think it's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you that much right now. That team is one of the better teams, left in this tournament. I think that was not talked about. I think if Bruce Pearl can get his guys in the right mindset, which, I mean, look, he got them in the right mindset for the game against Tennessee in the SEC championship game. They're really dangerous. And that was a game where Jared Harper did not score. So they have guys that can really come up and surprise you. So, at the same time, I mean, Carolina's got to be careful, but look, I think you're right. This team knows what their mission is. We've said it on here. This is probably, whichever game it is, whether it's the last Monday or if it's Friday, Sunday, whenever, this is probably the last game for 5 of these guys. More than likely, Nazir and Kobe are joining the seniors going to the NBA. They're on a mission. I feel like Roy Williams really shines in games like this against coaches that are experienced and really feel like, some people say, well, they might be pretty close here. I don't know how you would compare Bruce Pearl and Roy Williams. I think Roy is head and shoulders above him, but I think Roy pulls it out and gets the victory here. Carolina moves on to the Elite Eight, and who knows who we'll be facing, Kentucky or Houston. Neither one of them is going to be easy at all.
If it's never easy this time of year. Well, there you go, guys. That's your Auburn preview. And as always, you know where to find the Roy's Boys podcast: Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and, of course, the blog. I have the preview written. It'll be posted later tonight or early first thing tomorrow. You can find the blog on Medium.com, Facebook, and, of course, Twitter. Well, thank you guys for listening. Go Tar Heels.
Since the recording of the podcast on Wednesday afternoon, Tar Heel forward Nazir Little has officially been ruled questionable for the game with flu-like symptoms. As of right now, Roy Williams has said if he had to play today, being Thursday, he would not play. Barring a miraculous turnaround, it looks like the freshman forward will be out of the lineup for the Tar Heels against Auburn.